The views and opinions expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Overseas Radio Network, the Expat Broadcasting Group, the staff, management, or broadcast partners. All information provided is for educational purposes only. Before taking action, consult a licensed professional.
The Coast to Coast.
Check 1, 2. Testing.
Now hear me.
You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica
Once the volume control is set, do not readjust.
on the Overseas Radio Network. This Week in Costa Rica, bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica.
Listen, and decide in your own mind what sounds best.
Got a question? A comment?
They have to be dealt with on an altogether different level.
Or just want to talk to an expert on living in Costa Rica?
Brother, what a way to make a living.
Give us a call now.
Hello?
Lines are open and your answers are just one phone call away.
Now, if you have some suggestions to offer, we're willing to listen to you.
Ready?
This Week in Costa Rica with your host,
Who you?
Corey Coates.
And now, folks,
It's showtime.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. You're hanging out with Corey Coates, and guess who's back in studio today? I got Mr. Lyle Head here once again, coming to you live from the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility right here in sunny, beautiful Jaco Beach, Costa Rica. Thanks for joining us today, and good to see you again, Mr. Lyle Head.
Yeah, I had a nice little vacation in the cold.
Where did you go exactly?
We started off in Augusta, Georgia for a few days. Then we headed over to Sacramento, California. Then we were in Tahoe. Then we were in Oakland and Berkeley. And then we finished off at my parents' house in Fort Bragg, Mendocino.
Wow, that's like a whirlwind tour.
Yeah, the baby was just running around. We were throwing her from one person to the other like a hot potato. So
How well does she travel?
Oh, she's unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, she doesn't complain. She's better than me.
I'm a little nervous myself because I'm going to be getting on a plane, and I know that I'm always going to be sat beside that screaming, crying baby all the way back up to Toronto.
Oh, yeah, everybody looks at us when we get on the plane like, holy... You know.
What is the secret sauce that you're feeding that baby to keep it so well behaved, I guess?
It's all parenting, right?
Yep, I guess. Got a lot coming up today on the show. We are going to, of course, have Mr. Dan Stevens coming on in the next segment, talk a little bit about his experiences there at Festival de la Luz, and a whole bunch more going on as well. The Thursday coming up, I think, is the big the drive for the orphanage, where they're going to be giving out all the gifts. I think that's super exciting. But today as well, we're going to call up the guys who are running the new pizza shop in town. We're going to have a chat with Kevin. Is that right?
Yeah, Kevin.
What's the deal here? What are these guys doing?
They came down here a few years ago. They're surfers, and they bought this pizza shop about, I think, 6 or 8 months ago from another guy. They rechanged the name. They're right in the middle of the town. They sell slices and whole pies, and they surf and they sell pizza, and they're having a good life down here.
You know, I'm trying to figure out, is Jaco, is it the center of obvious names for restaurants? You know, one of my favorite restaurants is called Eat, and now we're opening this new pizza shop called The Pizza Shop.
Perfect. And the phone number is the best phone number in town because it's 643-643.
Wow.
No, 2643.
2643. That's easy to remember. And, you know, if you're having a slice of pizza on the beach, you don't want to remember too many numbers. I guess that's kind of the deal. And I'm, of course, looking to open up that restaurant. It's going to be called Breakfast.
Yeah, and to help you out, they just got their liquor license. They can serve alcohol.
Hold on. I can have a beer and a slice just down the road. This is going to be trouble.
For $5.
You know, I'm not feeling 100% because I just got off the Calypso cruise yesterday. We took that cruise out of Punta Arenas to Isla Tortuga.
Full day.
Full day. They pick you up here at the studio at 7 in the morning. You get back just after sundown. Ooh, and I'm feeling it.
Yeah, you're not too red, though.
No. I sunscreened up 3-4 times because it's just a molten hammer out there on that island. But what a great trip. Second time I've taken that cruise, and I have to say the Calypso cruise guys it's an outstanding, stellar job that they do.
What was was there a bunch of other people out there?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, and what's becoming more popular, especially this time of year, is you're seeing a lot of Ticos who are taking these cruises as opposed to foreigners.
For sure. They get, it's a fun day, and it's worth it. You get to drink and eat and...
They had 83 people on this giant catamaran, and my mother and father are down here as well. We got a ton to talk about with them, but it was just super to get on the cat. After having a great breakfast, was surprised that the pina coladas came out at 8 o'clock and made for an ultra long day.
That catamaran's really cool how it's set up to pull right into the beach.
I'm going to put some pictures on our website, which is thisweekincostarica.com, as well a couple on the Overseas Radio Facebook page, so that you guys can see me lounging on the catamaran and swimming in the sea. Now, Woody came with us as well. You remember he's a regular here on this program and others. And we made the big swim. We jumped in the ocean and went from island to island. We went from Isla Tortuga all the way over to Alcatraz.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that I could swim that far. But, when you get out to sea and the current starts dragging you, you really don't have a choice. You either keep going or you die.
Yeah, and then you got to find that current back in.
Yeah, and I thought, I'll do a little breaststroke. It's about a half a kilometer there and then a half a kilometer back. But I was doing side stroke pretty much the rest of the way, and I'm a little bit sore today as a result of it.
You floated for a little while, too, in between.
I did a little floating and a little bit of bobbing. And you realize, once you get about 20 minutes into your swim, how many beer you actually did have there on the beach.
Oh, you're a better man than me. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it, and it's not recommended unless you have some sort of swimming experience. Anyway, today it's not going to be all about me and my cruise, or maybe it will. Could be about you, too. If you guys want to pick up the phone, give us a call. That's 888-741-7472. Once again, I'm running the show here today. I am my own producer, so if one of these little lights turns green, I'm just going to go ahead and put your call right on the air. Any questions that you might have for me or for Lyle? Of course, Lyle is not only the expert on Jaco, he seems to be the expert on Costa Rica. I've never met a guy who's more knowledgeable about this country than you, and you've been here over 6 years now.
Come on, that's saying a lot. I know Jaco, but I don't know about Costa Rica.
You do know a lot. And you know what? We talk a little bit about the news before the show and what's going on around here. And I'm always surprised by how much information you've absorbed.
Yeah, I look at all the different little websites every day and grab all the headlines and make my own conclusions.
Well, we got a whole bunch of headlines we kind of want to talk about here, and a couple fun stories that we ran into as well. One, of course, by Dan Stevens on my favorite website, the Costa Rican Times, where he has that great article. It's called "We Have a Gringo for That." So I think coming up today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the subject matter that was in that article. I love that line, "We have a gringo for that," and I think there's a lot of valid points that he's making, and we want to maybe expand on them a little bit here on the show too. iPhone 5 is showing up here in Costa Rica for those of you who care about such things. I do. I just got my little iPad mini, and now I'm ready for my next piece of Apple gear, because those Apple hooks get in you pretty quick. There was a report that came out in La Nacion about Jaco and crime being on the rise, and the amount that they're finding is here. I don't know if I agree with this report.
I definitely don't. I've already talked to the police chief here and to our security guy, and it's all flabbergasted information.
Security is a huge issue here in Costa Rica. It's on the top of every Tico's mind. And, of course, as expats ourselves, it's something that we do take into serious consideration. But we're going to touch on this quite a bit as well, because we feel here in Jaco perfectly safe. And I really always loved the one line that Brad Sanson told me. And he said, look, you go out anywhere in the world at 2 in the morning looking for trouble, you're going to find it.
100%.
And I think that's absolutely true. So I feel that this report, though may be statistically accurate, I think is an exaggeration of the facts.
Yeah, for sure. And, you were just here with your parents for the last week. They were walking around the town. What was their experience?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're going to touch on that a lot as well, because my mom and dad are here, and they've made a lot of comments that I think are super valuable to assist you guys in understanding what it's like as even just a tourist to come down in Costa Rica. These guys are in their 60s and wandering around. How do they feel? What have their experiences been? Hey, my mom was even in the hospital the first night, so we're going to talk a lot about that. If you guys want to talk to us, of course, 888-741-7472. Toll free, U.S. and Canada. Coming up after this, we got Dan Stevens yipping and yapping a little bit of what's going on in Costa Rica. Stick around, guys.
I'm Sarah, and this is my story.
I'm Ellen, and this is my story.
One night, I was at a bar. I was having fun with my friends.
I
had one too many drinks.
I
got behind the wheel to go home.
I got a cab to go home.
All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road.
And all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road.
It happened so quickly, I barely had time to react.
It happened so quickly, the cabbie barely had time to react.
I swerved.
The cab swerved.
I can't believe it. I hit a guy.
I cannot believe it. The cabbie just missed a guy.
I wish I took a cab.
Thank goodness I took a cab.
You have the choice to save a life. Don't drive buzzed. It's a decision you'll never regret. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
This tree was never chopped down because this crutch never needed to be carved. Because these legs never grew weak. Because this child never got polio. Over the past 20 years, Rotary Club members have helped immunize over 2 billion children against polio. Now we're on the brink of eradicating this crippling disease once and for all. But we need your help. Thanks to an historic matching grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, every dollar Rotary raises will work twice as hard to make sure vaccines reach the people who need it, to protect the children of the world against polio forever. This is an opportunity to end polio now. Visit Rotary.org/endpolio. Rotary. Humanity in motion.
Looking to invest, live, or retire overseas? Before you pack your bags, you need to log on to NagelLaw.com. It's the only stop you need to make for global business, asset protection, estate planning, overseas residency, and citizenship needs. Our experts have experience working in 41 countries around the world. Starting a business abroad can be overwhelming without expert help. We assist clients with foreign trust, foundations, corporations, LLCs, IBCs, and property acquisition. Need help with IRA assets abroad, capital formation, foreign securities issues, banking, brokerage, or finance needs? NagelLaw.com. We ensure compliance with U.S. tax and regulatory laws. We engineer global structures to help our clients achieve their personal and business objectives. To find out about our introductory personal asset protection plan, visit NagelLaw.com, NagelLaw.com. We represent capital overseas.
This Week in Costa Rica is hosted by Canadian entrepreneur Corey Coates. Corey has been living and working as a professional in Costa Rica for over 5 years. He's built a vast network of professional connections to help you with everything from immigration to relocation. Call in or send Corey an email to talk about the steps you need to take in making your dream of living in paradise a reality.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. You're hanging out with Corey today. This is segment number 2, which means I'm going to bring on my dear friend, Mr. Dan Stevens in San Jose, founder, editor-in-chief of the Costa Rican Times, bringing some of the news and blues from all the happenings in Costa Rica. Let's see if we got you on the line. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, Corey. How you doing this fine Monday?
I am doing okay. That's all I can say about it, to tell you the truth. Now, you're back from the Festival de la Luz, which you talked about last week. How was that affair?
It was good. It was very interesting, to say the least. I didn't understand a lot of the floats. It was weird for me seeing Roman dancers, our ticos dressed up like Romans dancing to Latina music. But, hey, it's to each their own.
That's it. And, I heard that from a lot of people who went. They said that it was a confused affair, but definitely pretty.
There were some interesting floats there, to say the least.
I got a ton I want to talk to you about today, but I was on your website again this morning, and I noticed that you're involved in something that I thought was kind of hokum, but it looks like maybe there's something to this. What's up with this brainwave therapy that you're into right now?
I actually decided that I really needed to relieve some of the anxiety and stress in my life, and I was willing to try anything. And I was been going to a life coach, and I found them on Craigslist, which, of course, in most cases, you're like, oh, my God, Craigslist, it's got to be a scam.
Sure.
But I went over there. It's a couple, Dave and Carol. They're both from Canada, and they've been doing this for about 4 years now up in Canada. And they just arrived down in Costa Rica after a brief stint in Panama, and have set up shop in Rio Oro in Santa Ana. And I went over there thinking, okay, well, this sounds like hokum, just like you did. And but went through the initial session, and they gave me an analysis of what they thought was going on in my head, and they were dead on. I've gone through all 10 sessions now, and I can honestly say that I have a lot less anxiety in my life. I'm a lot happier. What they do is they actually, when you're born, your left and your right brain communicate perfectly with each other. And as your life goes on, you have experiences, be them traumatic or just going through the process of growing up, that affect the way way each part of your brain communicate with each other. What they do is they harmonize this communication and make you a lot more balanced. And it's really helped me out a lot. And a lot of people, they think, okay, well, what's the point of this? I can't believe it. Well, the best part about it is a lot of people down here in Costa Rica are going to therapists once or twice a week, which is costing them $50 to $100 each time. And this whole process takes about 2 weeks, and it only costs between $500 and $1,000. They base it on the ability for you to pay, et cetera. And if you're paying $150, $200 a week for a therapist, you've been going to him for a year, I'm fixed after 2 weeks, and I still have to do meditations at night, et cetera. But it's really helped me out, and I feel a lot more comfortable facing each day. So
if you were to say, okay, here's a typical type of patient then that might be interested in this type of therapy. I mean, what are some of the symptoms? What kind of a guy are we talking about walking around that might need something like this?
Well, what they use this technique for is to treat addictions, compulsive behaviors, mental troubles such as panic and eating disorders, ADD, post-traumatic stress, pretty much any kind. I mean, if you even have trouble interacting with in social atmospheres, it really helps out with being able to feel more comfortable and self-confident in yourself. It also helps with instead of getting bored and eating 8 chocolate bars, then you're able to actually control those compulsive behaviors.
Wow. Do you have a video camera somewhere hidden here in my apartment? Because you're actually describing me. You know,
I actually do have a video camera. I didn't enjoy what I saw last night. Yeah. But thanks anyway.
I didn't want to bring it up. All right, now you're writing an article right now that I think is pretty cool, or at least you're putting something together, because a lot of our listeners are interested in what's involved in starting a business or getting a business going here in Costa Rica.
Correct. We are doing that right now. I'm doing an article. I've been involved with several businesses down here on a management level, being with the Costa Rican Times. There, as well as a couple of other items down here. But from my experiences, and this is just generalities of what I've gone through myself, one, if you're coming down here and you think that it's going to be like starting a business in the USA or Canada or wherever your home country is, you're completely wrong. There's a lot of things you have to go through, a lot of red tape you have to cut through in Costa Rica to get something going. My first bit of advice, if you can find an already established profitable business down here to take over, or then I recommend doing that. It is very, very difficult to start a business from the ground floor up. I had a friend of mine tell me one time, in order to make $1 million in Costa Rica, you got to bring $2 million with you. And it's, in most cases, it's true. I mean, if you have a set budget that you have for starting a business down here, and I would say double it. Wow. And so, and of course, it depends on what kind of business you're starting, et cetera. But a lot of the times, you're going to have a lot of things that come up that you didn't think of. Second of all, do a lot of market research on the idea. A lot of ideas that fly in the USA and Canada don't fly down here because the Costa Rican public doesn't really understand it, or it's just something that just doesn't work. And although it might seem like a wonderful idea and everyone's saying, oh, this is a great plan, unless I would do research again and seeing if anyone's done it before, because most great ideas have been tried in Costa Rica, and if it's a great idea that's not original, there's probably a reason why it's not working down here.
I think one of the most legendary flops here in Costa Rica was maybe 8 or 9 years ago when people started opening up Blockbusters.
Oh yeah.
You know, and anyone who knows anything about the Costa Rican culture, the last thing they're going to do is pay those blockbuster prices to go out and rent a movie when you can buy it on a street corner for $1.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And there's just a lot of things you have to think about down here. And the best business ideas are one that makes it so people have to do less work for less money. And those things are usually, you usually have to do it at a very large level to make money on it. So there's only several businesses down here that are really money makers, which is gambling, sports books, etc., real estate. And one of the biggest industries down here, of course, is being involved in the sex industry, which I do not encourage anyone to get involved with because of the legal ramifications of being involved with possibly pimping women.
Of course. I'll tell you what we have to do, Dan. We got to run here because we got to take a commercial break. But I'd love to talk more next week when we get our article together on getting a business going here in Costa Rica, because that's what a lot of listeners are interested in. Before we go, though, we got like 45 seconds. Can we chat a little bit about what you're doing on this Thursday, then?
This Thursday is the orphanage party. It'll be at 1 p.m. at the orphanage. If you click on the banner at the top of our website at CostaRicanTimes.com, it'll tell you a little bit about the orphanage, where it's located, etc. We want as many people as possible to show up. We're going to have a face painter, bring a lot of gifts. We had somebody, an anonymous donator who wants to remain anonymous, donated $750 for us to buy some gifts for them. So we are going to plan on doing this party this Thursday for them.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Dan Stevens, editor-in-chief and founder of Costa Rican Times. We'll talk to you next week. You guys want to call in? 888-741-7472.
From China's Great Wall to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, this is the Overseas Radio Network.
You've decided that you want to move overseas for that quality of life experience you've always dreamed of. But you don't want to give up the best of back home. We agree. Things like high-speed internet, safe neighborhood.
Shooting on Friday at a primary school in the U.S. state of Connecticut are being held today. 6-year-olds Noah Ponza and Jack Pinto are the first to be buried. 20 children and 6 adults died after gunman Adam Lanza opened fire at the Sandy Hook School in Newtown.
Outside the funeral home here in Newtown, members of the community are paying their respects to Jack Pinto. He will be one of the first children laid to rest today. He's 6 years old and he was a big sports fan, a big New York Giants fan, and that's how he's being remembered today. The official death notice doesn't mention how he died. It just said he was surrounded by classmates, teachers, and friends. Another of the children will also be laid to rest. The youngest, Noah Posner, just turned 6 years old. His family had recently moved from New York to Newtown to have a quieter life away from the big city. 2 children's funerals on a day for a small town like this is a tragedy, but there are 18 more to go. Nathan King, Newtown, Connecticut.
As the spotlight turns to gun control following the mass shooting, gun sales in the U.S., which are at a record high, have come under fresh scrutiny. Americans are in shock, with anti-gun activists marching on the National Rifle Association's lobbying arm in Washington. Nina Maria Potts reports.
3 days after the Connecticut elementary school shooting, and the attention has shifted to gun sales in the U.S., Americans reportedly bought a record number of guns during last month's sales, with the FBI conducting background checks on 154,000 purchases of firearms. Speaking at a memorial service for the victims of Friday's shooting, President Obama said something needs to change, but did not mention gun control. Anti-gun activists, meanwhile, are marching on the National Rifle Association's lobbying arm in Washington.
Meanwhile, Connecticut police are promising a thorough and comprehensive investigation into the shooting. Schools across the country are receiving counselling for students worried about the tragedy, while Sandy Hook remains closed indefinitely. Over 70 people have been injured and 17 killed after a bomb attack in northwest Pakistan. It comes just a day after a 15-hour standoff between militants and security personnel at Peshawar airport. So far, no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Nationalist parties that have seized power in Japan after a landslide in the country's general elections have issued fresh warnings to China over a territorial dispute. Soon-to-be-appointed Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is likely to form a two-thirds majority coalition. Mr. Abe has said that he does not want to worsen relationships between Tokyo and Beijing, but that China must stop challenging Japan's territory. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Sit back and relax. You are tuned into the Overseas Radio Network.
Good. What? What is it?
This Week in Costa Rica. Fun, informative, and your questions answered. Talk live with one of our on-air experts and start living your dream now.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. My thanks again to Mr. Dan Stevens, the editor-in-chief of the Costa Rican Times, one of my favorite morning news sources. On the phone today, what I've got is another entrepreneur and business owner who came down here to Costa Rica to start his own thing and do it his way. Hopefully here I've got Kevin from the new pizza shop. Kevin, are you there? Hello, Kevin, have I got you? Try him one more time. Kevin, have I got you there?
Yes, sir, you do.
How are you, sir?
Very well, and yourself?
Very, very good. So apparently there's a new pizza shop in town with the name The Pizza Shop. Where are you from? What brought you down here?
So originally I'm from Minnesota, and then I graduated college from Arizona State, and me and a couple buddies were kind of bored, so we figured we'd learn how to surf.
You know, I dialed you up there, and you've probably got the best phone number in Jaco, yeah?
Yes, sir. It works perfectly. 2643-2643.
Absolutely. Now, you guys decided to come down here and open up a pizza shop, but I got to wonder, like, what inspired you to come to Jaco here in the first place? Of all the places in the world you could have gone.
Well, we just wanted to learn how to surf. We knew there was good surf, good people, beautiful beaches, beautiful women, so we figured we'd give it a try, and we ended up loving it.
Did you come down before you decided to open this, or did you do some research and then decide to come down and open it up?
I moved down for about 6 months with some buddies, just originally trying to get away from the States, figure out a new plan in life, and we enjoyed surfing, enjoyed Jaco, enjoyed traveling throughout Costa Rica and Central America, and so then we went back to the States, worked 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day for 10 months, came back and bought the pizza shop.
Wow, it sounds amazing. Like, okay, so obviously you're a surfer, longboard or shortboard?
Shortboard surf, but longboard can be fun when you don't have any waves.
You like the nice beach break we got here in Jaco, right?
Say that again?
Nice beach break here in Jaco, super reliable.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, couldn't ask for better.
Now, a lot of our listeners are always wondering when you come down to a place like Costa Rica and open up a business, what are some of the pitfalls and what are some of the things that you encountered within the first couple of weeks that you might not have expected?
I learned to have a lot of patience. There's always something different that you're going to have to deal with, new challenge, new adventure. But, with patience and with the people here, they teach you how to relax a little bit and remind you that you're in Costa Rica in a beautiful place on a beautiful beach. And so I just learned I had to relax.
We get a lot of email and a lot of questions from listeners wondering the level of Spanish that you should be able to speak or might want to consider speaking before you come down to Costa Rica, and especially before you open up a business. How is your Spanish?
Más o menos.
Okay.
Poco a poco. I'm learning every day. It's fun. Your level of Spanish is, it's nice to have, but you're very capable of speaking English in Jaco. Everyone here speaks great English.
Now, did you study a little bit of Spanish in the United States before you came down here, or did you start picking it up here? Kevin, have I got you there? Looks like we dropped the call there with Kevin. No big deal. We're going to see if we can get him back on in the next segment. But, sitting here talking to Lyle right now, it's fascinating to me that this guy sounds like a young guy.
Yeah, he definitely is.
And it sounds like I can't imagine what it would be like to be anyone even under the age of 30 to pack it all up and move down to Costa Rica and open up a business.
Nah, you would think it takes a lot of guts. It's, a lot of ambition.
It's funny because you'd say to yourself hey, pizza can't be rocket science, but there's an art to making a good slice of pizza.
For sure.
There is some bad pizza here in town, I don't mind telling you.
Yeah, I just eat there, so I don't have any problems.
Well, if we can get Kevin back on the line in a little bit, I'd love to chat with him as well if he's going to make any changes to the menu, because I know I ate quite a few slices there at the what used to be Big Ron's Pizza, right? Before it became now the Pizza Shop.
Correct.
So we'll yip and yap with Kevin a little bit more, but one of the things I was going to address with him, and I thought I'd like to talk to you about, is in our first segment we chatted about that article in La Nación about the crime rate here in Jaco, and I don't know, should I be concerned or am I just walking around delusional?
I guess we're all walking around delusional because I don't see it either.
My parents are here for the week, and as I mentioned, they're retirees who are enjoying their time in Costa Rica. I don't even know where they are right now. They're out wandering around town or by the pool or going to the casino or going to the shops and picking up some souvenirs. And my father and I had been out a couple nights this week. We went down to the casino or walking up and down the streets, and I see the same thing every single time. Police everywhere, well-lit streets, families, children, old people, tourists everywhere. I'm not reading this article and seeing how it equates to the reality that I face in Jaco every day.
Yeah, the fact that they said we're twice the crime rate that you see in Limon.
Now, Limon is the port town on the east side, and it is infamous for the criminal activity there, because like any port town, you're going to have some interesting people. But I can't imagine that Jaco is anywhere close to as dangerous as there.
No, we've already reached out to a bunch of the police and Fuerza Publica and like the CIA type people that are all here in Jaco. We're going to put another letter up to combat the information because it's just not true.
I think somebody needs to contest that because, there obviously is a crime rate. There are a certain number of murders per 100,000 people is absolutely a statistic that you have to consider. But I think crime is a sentiment as much as it is, a factual, statistic.
Well, this paper that did it to La Nación, it's another one of those political things where they own property in Guanacaste, even though they own their personal house here. Yeah. Just outside of Los Sueños in a place called Ferro Escondido because it's convenient for them, right? But their investments are all up north.
Now, you're not suggesting there's a little bit of corruption behind the news now, are you?
Never, right? Media is not controlled by anybody. Right?
Interesting.
These are real reporters that report this stuff.
Oh, because newspapers aren't for sale. They're free. I see. It's got nothing to do with making money. It's got nothing to do with political positioning. And there is no vested interest in the news here. Interesting. Okay, I see what you're getting at. But I guess the point is this, is that, my mother and father have been wandering around, and they did the same thing. They did a lot of internet research prior to coming to Costa Rica. And as you would, you're going to find a couple of things about Jaco. One of them is that crime. The other is going to be prostitution. The third is going to be drugs. None of these three things, well, maybe the second one, but the first and the third were something that were not prominent immediately to my father. He did not walk around and say, "Man, I don't really feel safe here."
No, I don't. When I came here 7 years ago, it was different. It definitely was a different town. We had 3 cops.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, it's night and day the amount of police we have here. And just, like you said, lit up streets, paved roads, paved sidewalks.
What's the change? What is the transformation that's been taking place?
Like who caused it or why is it happening?
Why is it getting better? That's what I'd like to know. Because, again, many people have said the same thing, that here on the West Coast, this is not the same place it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. What has been changing?
Yeah, there's been an influx of foreign investment. Really, it comes back to that story. We got a gringo for that. The gringos have come here and invested in this little town.
It's hard because we don't want to sit here as, even though we're residents of this country, I still consider myself very much a visitor and a guest here in Costa Rica. But I'm finding more and more that we are able to take a little bit of credit for what's been happening, good and bad.
Yeah, we pay our taxes on time. We pay all of our employees their taxes and Social Security. We don't pay people under the table because we're afraid of those types of things.
But it's what I'm getting at is that, and I see you do it all the time. I see Dan Stevens do it all the time. I'm getting more involved in this. People are making, a big effort for community improvement and helping with charitable organizations, on their own volition here as expats in Costa Rica, feeling like, look, I can't depend on the government to do it because they can't afford to.
Yeah, and it's no different than in the U.S., right? Same difference. A lot of philanthropists and people, do their own things. Here, there's been the government's supposed to do that for us. Society, that the Costa Ricans don't really do that kind of stuff. It's not embedded into them.
Great point. And that's one of the things that that Americans have always sort of been, is probably the most charitable country in the world, far and away. Not probably, definitely the most charitable country in the world. So this is part of your society. This is who you guys are.
For sure. And we were talking a little earlier, and I look at this as something that's neat, because I'm going to be raising kids here, and other Americans that are here are raising kids here who are going to grow up and kind of change that culture.
Let's hold on to that thought. I want to make that the topic of conversation coming up into segment 4. Looks like we're having a little bit of problem getting Kevin back on. We'll see if we can get him on for the next hour, but I really want to dig deeper into this topic. I want to discuss what it is that a lot of North Americans and some Europeans are here doing in order to improve this country and improve the communities, to make it a better place, not only for themselves, but for their kids who they're raising here, their friends and their family who are visiting, and of course, for all of the Costa Ricans who live here as well, because I think that we're making some leaps and bounds, and I'd love to have that conversation with you guys about what we could do to make Costa Rica a better place for all. If you guys want to join in, of course, that's 888-741-7472. You're hanging out with Corey and Lau, broadcasting live from Jaco Beach, Costa Rica, the overseas radio broadcasting facility. This is This Week in Costa Rica. Stick around, guys. Just going to take a short break.
Arrie, mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the 7 seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? The plastic bag! By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
Have you ever dreamed of working abroad? Are you an expat looking for a job? Then you need to visit expatcareers.com, the premier worldwide, all-industry expatriate job site. We are dedicated to providing the best employment opportunities for professionals and experienced expatriates, or for those simply wishing to relocate within their home country. We provide job seekers with access to vacancies and offer recruiters a unique opportunity to advertise these vacancies to the best, most forward-looking individuals within their industry. We are not a recruitment or employment agency. We do, however, showcase the best jobs across the globe on a central, user-friendly careers website. At expatcareers.com, we are dedicated to providing the best employment opportunities for professional and experienced expatriates, or for those simply wishing to relocate within their home country or overseas. The next time you are looking for a change of pace, don't just look for a job. Look for a career. expatcareers.com. That's www.expatcareers.com.
Are you ready to enjoy a truly personal banking relationship again? One where a real human being will take your call and knows you by name? Does bank privacy and secrecy mean something to you? Well, these mean something to us at Key International Bank Limited. You and your needs are the most important aspect of the relationship. Key International Bank has been in business since 2003 and serves discerning clients who want high-level private banking and investment services. Traditional services include deposit and savings accounts in 5 different currencies, international debit cards for quick ease to your money, access to a wide variety of investment products and funds unavailable in the United States and Canada, and loans in multiple currencies for properties and homes throughout Latin America. Key International Bank Limited, your private banking solution. Visit our website at www.bankinbelize.com.
From the Swiss Alps to the sunny shores of Aruba, this is the Overseas Radio Network.
You know what I just heard?
What? Costa Rica has the reputation of being the happiest country on earth.
But it gets better.
This Week in Costa Rica brings you the best information.
The best.
From the people who understand why so many choose to call this beautiful place home. bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica. This Week in Costa Rica, Pura Vida.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Another lovely, balmy, sunny afternoon here in the Overseas Radio broadcast facilities. Coming to you live from Jaco Beach, Costa Rica. Not telling a lie when I tell you it's one of my favorite places to be right now. Love working here, and once again, I've moved from San Jose out here to the coast, and probably the best move I've ever made in my life. I think one of the reasons is that we're talking about today that some of the improvements that have been made in Costa Rica and in the Jaco area, have largely been initiated by the expat community. And I pulled up the article here on the Costa Rican Times, which I hadn't had a chance to read until that commercial break. And I think it's pretty fascinating with that article that Dan put together stating, we have a gringo for that. One of the examples cited was the house painting initiative that was put together by some of the local ladies from the Teatro Jaco.
Yeah. No, it's constant here. I mean, we have American opened up a library, public library here. American started the Chamber of Commerce. Americans do the beach cleaning on a regular basis. I mean, the American has the McKee Project, which is the spay and neuter the dogs and the rescue for animals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I honestly can't think of one organization here in Jaco that has to do with philanthropy that's ran by locals.
This is the hardest thing, and I'm not going to sit here and slam the Costa Ricans, but, you've got a point. Aside from the telethon that they throw on every year, which is like an annual telethon to benefit the children's hospital, even that is really it's an interesting affair. Let's put it that way. I don't know how much money is really raised and how effective it is, but I mean that's one thing that I can think about. Like one thing I've thought of, that's helping an organization that truly needs a lot of money. Whereas here's a guy like Dan who's trying to help an orphanage and is running into a roadblock every single time he runs into a company that he needs help from.
Yeah, and well, like he said in the article, if they're not getting something for it, they're not going to do anything.
Interesting. Now, what do you think this is? Do you think this is a cultural difference? Do you think that we as North Americans, we've always grown up in a society where it's imperative to help thy neighbor?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of cultural differences and the different social classes have always been such a wide gap. We haven't had a middle class here. And it's usually, there is a lot of help in the U.S. from people that are extremely wealthy, but there's a lot of middle class people that help and then do the day-to-day volunteer work. It's not the uber rich that are doing all the volunteer work.
Interesting. Now, I mean, there are a lot of things here that Ticos do that are great, and don't get me wrong, because I've personally run in some of the charity races, and you see a ton of these happening just about everywhere, where they'll be doing, a run for breast cancer awareness, or you name it. I think the run that I did was I think that was what I did. I think I ran with a pink ribbon on for breast cancer awareness or something. But I don't find that the day-to-day improvements that could be made in our culture and our society here, not only as expats but the Tico population as well, that day-to-day work is not being done as heavily by Costa Ricans as it is by expats and Americans specifically.
Yeah, especially in these expat communities, right, where there's, maybe in San Jose there's a little bit more happening, but when you start looking at these beach towns, they're being done more by U.S. citizens.
I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of email on this because, as I sit here and I think about a lot of the companies, but this is the same thing, and here's my point. You could say, for example, Intel or Hewlett-Packard or Oracle or whoever is down here doing a lot of social responsibility. But there again, these initiatives are being launched by Fortune 500 U.S. companies down here who are bringing their corporate policy and social responsibility into the fold to make these improvements.
For sure. And it's and I embrace it. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Of course not.
I still think it's a good thing. I'm going to raise kids here. I was just telling you earlier, I'm raising kids here. There's other Americans who are raising kids here. These kids are going to be the future leaders here because they have these skill sets and they understand these types of things.
I think it's a great point. And what you see as well is that just through pure observation, that a lot of Costa Ricans are watching what the Americans are doing here and the amount of philanthropy that's happening, the amount of volunteer work in these communities, there's got to be a point where a lot of people in Costa Rica are saying, hey, why don't we step up our game? We should be involved in this more.
And they seem to help out when they're to a point. I mean, we do get some help, but it's the lack of leadership usually, and I think the Americans that come down here have a little bit better leadership qualities than.
Interesting. And I think it's great because, what you're seeing is that what I know a lot of you guys love in America is that there's little dependence on the government for these sort of things, because the government, it's going to be probably a wasteful affair. There's probably going to be money stolen from it, and it's not going to be well done, if at all. Whereas a lot of these private initiatives are going to happen immediately. The money's going to be transparent, and it's going to be super effective.
Yeah, and you can see it from this little orphanage thing that Dan's doing. I mean, we do stuff every year here locally, buying Christmas presents, and the library, the Chamber of Commerce itself. I mean, putting over $500,000 into that over the last 5 years.
And I guess that's exactly the point, is that, what's being done here is not just for the benefit of you guys living in the community. I hear this from expats down here who are doing volunteer work all the time. It's, I want this place to be better for my kids. I want this to be a better place for the next generation of expats and the next generation of Ticos who live here.
Yeah, and you can really touch people here. It's a small enough community where just the littlest amount of effort really does go a long ways.
You're absolutely right. You know what I want to do is I want to get to an email that came in here. A lot of people go over to our website, which is thisweekincostarica.com, and you're going to find all kinds of links over there. Most importantly, our link to the Facebook page if you want to like us. And I do tweet a little bit about what's going on here in Costa Rica and follow what we're doing there. But as well, there's a contact form where a lot of people send us some emails. And one of the questions that comes in, this is actually a very popular question, is regarding maid service and what the cost of maid service is here in Costa Rica, and what are some of the laws that surround this. And I have a bit of an interesting story, if I could tell, about my last maid and then moving into the maid service that I have now, where I've moved into the studio. You have a maid, you must.
Yeah, we have a maid that comes twice a week.
Okay, and if you don't mind my asking, what do you pay her? You don't even know. Okay, so
I think $20 at a time.
Yeah, I mean, my last maid that I had, the going rate can be anywhere from 1,200 colones to 2,000 colones per hour if you pay them on an hourly rate. So 1,500 colones, give or take, is about $3, and $3 an hour for maid service is great. There's a couple of things that I want to address before I talk about maybe some of the laws that have come into place here in Costa Rica that you should be aware of. But more importantly is how to actually work with a maid in the first place, because a good maid is really, really hard to come by.
Oh, and they're never good. At the end of the day, you got to constantly. I mean, my wife, we've had our maid for 3 years now, and she's still got a reminder. I mean, when she left, my wife's gone for the week right now in Colombia, and the first day she cleaned the house for me and I was here, she left the back door open for the dogs.
Ugh.
Yeah, she didn't clean it. She left clothes in the laundry room, like wet clothes, and she didn't get the chicken eggs.
Oh my God. Okay, so there's a couple things here that a listener needs to know, because I know a lot of people, when they're thinking about moving down to a place like Costa Rica, it's like, oh, I understand that I can get a housemaid, and you're absolutely right. You can, and for great prices. But what Lyle's touching on here is dead accurate. You actually need to literally walk your maid through every step of the operation, initially, and then follow up on it as well. I'm talking about, hey, I want you to clean the living room, and then you explain to her how the living room's going to be cleaned. No, you have to literally show her how you want the living room to be done. Otherwise, she's just going to run around with a broom, dust everything you can see, and then leave.
Exactly.
So how thoroughly you want your house cleaned, and I'm a little bit OCD about it, I think is key. But more importantly is then following up on that and checking on her work, because you know how it is. You do the first couple of weeks with her, everything's great, then you don't tell her anything again, and then she gets a little bit lazy on you.
Yep, you got to stay on her.
Absolutely. But more important than that are some of the laws that we have to take into consideration when we are paying our maids here. And we're doing a little bit more investigation on This Week in Costa Rica on this, because there was a law that was passed recently that is really set up to protect house workers. And I do agree with this to a very high degree. A lot of house workers here in Costa Rica are here illegally, as they are, for example, often in the United States. Many Nicaraguans come down here and work and clean houses for cash under the table. That said, you might think that they don't have any legal protection, that there's not any legislation in place to ensure that they can have a safe, clean, healthy work environment. Well, that's absolutely not true. They are completely protected by the Costa Rican government. They can be protected by the social insurance system here, and you do have to find out how and if you want to pay taxes for them.
Exactly.
Shocking for me, and I'll tell you why. Because what I had been doing, for example, like any gringo would, is I'm just paying her by the hour. And once a month, usually on the 15th, all the hours are totaled up and I pay her. Then at the end of the year, I pay that aguinaldo, which is that what they call 13th month salary, where you've taken the amount of money that you paid them basically over the year and you divide it by 12. So if it's been 4 months of work, you take that 4 months, divide it by 12. You give it to them at the end of the year. They call it the 13th month salary for that reason. It's that it's a 12th of what they made over the year, and it's the Christmas bonus that every employee anywhere in Costa Rica basically gets. So, of course, paying the regular salary and then paying the Christmas bonus at the end of the year, I thought that was the end of things. That, Lyle, is not even close to the end of things.
Tell me what more you have to do.
I know. Now it gets a little bit scary. I didn't realize until I just finished with my last housemaid that I had to pay a severance. Because, now silly me, I thought what I'm doing is I'm just getting in my car and I'm moving. I'm not firing anybody. No, that's not the case. What you actually are doing is letting her go. And as a result of that, I had to pay 3 years of severance.
Wow, what did that come to?
Basically, the calculation was, and I had a lawyer do it for me to confirm on it, but it looked like for every month or every year that someone works for you, you have to give them 1 week's pay, okay, or whatever the average of 1 week was. Plus, I had to pay her 2 weeks vacation. Plus, I had to pay her another severance bonus because I didn't give her proper notification that I was going to be moving. I didn't give her 30 days notice that I was moving.
Crazy.
So a couple things definitely we have to take a look at and consider as we move forward. And I want you guys to be more aware of this, but there's another law that I'd love to discuss when we get back. In the meantime, I want you guys to sit tight. We're going to give you 5 minutes of news, play some commercials, pay some bills. Take your calls if you like, 888-741-7472. I think I'm going to go out on the balcony, get a little bit of sunshine. You guys can chill out. You're hanging out with Corey and Lyle on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.